Instructor Velk had seen approximately 4,762 cadets pass through the Galactic Federation Military Academy. He had broken the spirit of warriors from 63 different species. He had reduced battle-hardened veterans to whimpering puddles of regret. And in 200 cycles of teaching, not a single one had ever questioned his methods. Today was about to ruin his perfect record. "Listen up, you pathetic excuses for soldiers!" Velk bellowed across the training grounds, his 6 arms gesturing wildly for emphasis. The morning sun of Bareth Prime cast long shadows across the assembled cadets, most of whom were already trembling. Good. Fear was an excellent motivator. Today, we separate the actual warriors from the decorative plants pretending to be warriors. Crixta, the insectoid from the hive worlds, clicked her mandibles nervously. Her exoskeleton gleamed under the harsh light, but even with all that natural armor, she looked ready to bolt. Beside her, Plorb wobbled uncertainly, their gelatinous form rippling with what Velk had learned to recognize as anxiety. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. "Now then," Velk continued, pacing back and forth with the confidence of someone who had never been proven wrong. "I understand we have a new addition to our training program. Some kind of cultural exchange nonsense from a backwater planet called... What was it again?" "Earth, sir," Jorath, his fellow instructor, supplied helpfully. The younger Barothi seemed almost excited, which Velk found irritating. Nothing about soft-bodied primates should inspire excitement. "Right. Earth. Dirt. How appropriate." Velk snorted, a sound like grinding gravel. "Apparently, the Federation has decided that we need to hold hands with every species that figures out faster than light travel. Next thing you know, we will be accepting applications from bacteria." A few nervous laughs rippled through the assembled cadets. Velk preened. He still had it. The sound of footsteps interrupted his moment of self-satisfaction. Not the careful, measured steps of a cadet trying to avoid attention. No, these were casual, almost lazy footsteps. The kind of footsteps that suggested the person making them had absolutely no idea they were walking into a military academy and not some sort of recreational facility. Velk turned, preparing his most withering glare. What he saw made 2 of his arms twitch involuntarily. The human was, well, honestly, disappointing. Average height by Barothi standards, meaning slightly short. Bipedal, which was a design flaw in Velk's opinion. Only 2 arms. 2. How did anything accomplish tasks with only 2 arms? The creature had strange fur only on the top of its head, short and dark, and its face was arranged in what Velk's cultural briefing had called a smile. That should have been his first warning. "Good morning," the human said, his voice carrying an enthusiasm that made Velk's primary stomach turn. "I am Derek, reporting for training. Sorry I am late. Your planet has 3 suns, and I could not figure out which one I was supposed to use for telling time. I guessed wrong. Twice." Silence blanketed the training grounds. Absolute, total silence. Velk's left eye twitched. "You... guessed?" "Well, yeah. I mean, the orientation packet was not exactly clear on the whole tri-solar system thing. Where I am from, we just have the one sun. Makes mornings way more straightforward." Derek shrugged, a gesture that involved lifting both shoulders. Velk found it bizarre. "Anyway, I am here now. What did I miss?" "What did you miss?" Velk's voice climbed approximately 3 octaves. "You missed the entire morning inspection. You missed the uniform distribution. You missed the basic orientation on Academy rules, regulations, and the 73 ways you can be dishonorably discharged." Derek nodded thoughtfully. Right, right. That sounds important. Could I maybe get the short version? Like, what are the top 5 ways to get kicked out? I will try to avoid those and wing the rest. Jorath made a choking sound. Krixta's antennae stood straight up in shock. Plorb rippled so hard they nearly lost cohesion. Velk took a deep breath, then another. His meditation instructor had told him that breathing exercises helped with anger management. His meditation instructor was an idiot. Report to the equipment depot. Get your standard gear. Then get back here before I decide that cultural exchange programs are optional. You got it, boss? Derek gave a strange gesture, raising one hand to his forehead in what the briefing had called a salute, but doing it with far too much casualty to be respectful. Then he jogged toward the depot, his gait loose and relaxed. Velk turned to Jorath. I give him 3 days before he quits. I am not taking that bet, Jorath replied, watching Derek's retreating form with curiosity. Did you notice his muscle structure? The way he moves? I noticed he moves like someone who has never faced real adversity, Velk snapped. Typical for these peace-loving species. All talk, no resilience. What happened 15 minutes later would haunt Velk's dreams for weeks. Derek returned carrying his gear. All of it. The standard cadet loadout included a footlocker weighing approximately 240 pounds, a training pack with another 80 pounds of equipment, a personal weapons locker at 160 pounds, and assorted smaller items. Standard procedure was for cadets to make multiple trips, sometimes requiring assistance from fellow recruits. Derek carried everything, at once, in his 2 pathetic, soft-bodied arms, and he was not even breathing hard. Where should I put this stuff? Derek asked, setting down the mountain of equipment with a casual thump that cracked the ground plating. I did not see any barracks assignments posted. Velk's rightmost arm pointed mutely toward the living quarters. Derek nodded, picked everything back up again, and wandered off in that direction, whistling something that sounded vaguely musical but wholly alien. That, Krixta whispered, her voice barely audible, should not be possible. Agreed, Plorb burbled, their forms still quivering. The footlocker alone requires 3 Barothi to move safely. Velk said nothing. He was too busy recalculating every assumption he had ever made about baseline physical capabilities. Jorath cleared his throat. Should we perhaps review the human physical assessment data from their Federation application? No, Velk said flatly. It is clearly wrong. Probably a clerical error. Someone added an extra 0 somewhere. I will prove it tomorrow during the physical evaluation. But even as he said it, doubt gnawed at the edges of his certainty. That evening, Velk sat in his office, pretending to review training schedules while actually watching the security feed from the barracks. Derek had settled in, unpacking with the same casual efficiency he had demonstrated earlier. Krixta and Plorb had attempted to introduce themselves, and the human had responded with friendly enthusiasm, asking questions about their homeworlds and sharing something called protein bars from his personal supplies. Then, almost as an afterthought, Derek dropped to the floor and began doing push-ups. One-handed push-ups. Alternating hands, while continuing his conversation with the other cadets. At around the 300 mark, Velk stopped counting. His primary hand was trembling too much to keep accurate track. This is not possible, Velk muttered, rewinding the footage and watching again. This violates at least 17 biological principles. Jorath appeared in the doorway, holding a datapad. I pulled the human assessment files. Thought you might want to see them. I do not want to see them. You really, really do. Velk snatched the pad with more force than necessary. His eyes scanned the data, then scanned again. Then he threw the pad across the room, where it bounced off the wall with a satisfying crack. "Those numbers are wrong!" "The Federation verified them 6 times, Jorath said calmly, retrieving the slightly damaged pad. "Apparently, humans come from a high-gravity world with a hostile biosphere. Their bodies are designed for extreme durability and strength. This Derek individual is actually considered below average by human standards." "Below average?" "According to this, he failed his planetary military fitness test twice before qualifying." Velk collapsed into his chair, which groaned under his considerable weight. 200 cycles. 200 cycles of perfect understanding about how the universe worked. And now this. This human was going to ruin everything. "Fine," Velk said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Tomorrow we do the full physical assessment, not the standard one, the advanced assessment, the one we reserve for Graviton, shock troops, and Titan-class species." Jorath's expression shifted to concern. "Sir, that assessment has a 40% injury rate for species specifically evolved for it. For a human, it could be fatal." "Then he will learn a valuable lesson about overconfidence," Velk replied, already designing the course in his mind. Impossible weights, brutal obstacles, challenges that would break this creature's spirit if not his body. He smiled, a predatory expression that had terrified generations of cadets. Tomorrow, the human would learn exactly who ran this academy. Tomorrow, Velk would restore the natural order. Tomorrow was going to be perfect. In the barracks, Derek finished his 500th push-up, hopped to his feet, and cracked his knuckles. "Well," he said to Krixta, "tomorrow should be fun. The instructor seems nice." Krixta's antennae drooped. "Derek, I think you may have misread the situation." "Nah," Derek grinned. "I am great at reading people. This is going to be awesome." Somewhere in his office, Velk felt an inexplicable chill run down his primary spine. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all. Morning arrived with all the subtlety of a collapsing star. Velk had barely slept, too busy perfecting his assessment course. By the time the 3 suns rose, he had created what he privately considered a masterpiece of sadistic training design. "Attention!" His voice boomed across the grounds, waking every cadet within a half-mile radius. Derek stumbled out of the barracks, hair sticking up at odd angles, yawning like someone who had just woken from a comfortable nap. The sight made Velk's leftmost eye twitch. "Today we conduct physical evaluations, standard protocol for most of you. But for our special new recruit, I have prepared something different." Krixta shot Derek a worried look. Plorb actually shivered, their gelatinous mass quivering with concern. Derek just smiled. "Cool. I love a challenge." Velk gestured toward the obstacle course with 4 of his arms simultaneously. "Behold, the Gauntlet of Progressive Resistance. You will carry weights across terrain specifically designed to test your limits. Each tier increases in difficulty. Krixta, you first." The insectoid approached nervously. The first weight was a solid block of compressed titanium alloy, roughly 120 pounds. She lifted it with visible effort, her exoskeleton creaking, and made it approximately halfway across before her legs buckled. Respectable, honestly. Velk nodded approval. Plorb attempted the second tier, 80 pounds heavier. They managed 6 feet before literally splitting down the middle, their form losing cohesion from the stress. Medical staff rushed over. Plorb waved them off, reforming with obvious embarrassment. And now, Velk announced, his voice dripping with theatrical pleasure, the human will attempt the course. Derek approached the first weight station, rolling his shoulders casually. The block sat there, gleaming in the triple sunlight. He looked at it, looked at Velk, looked back at the weight. So, Derek said slowly, when you say lift what I can, you mean, what exactly? Velk's smile could have cut glass. I mean lift whatever your feeble biology allows, human. If that is nothing, we will understand. Not every species is built for real military work. Right, Derek nodded thoughtfully. But are we talking about their limit? He gestured toward the other cadets. Or my limit? The question hung in the air like a grenade with a pulled pin. Velk laughed, a harsh, grating sound. Oh, by all means, show us your limit, human. This should be entertaining. Okay, cool. Just wanted to clarify. Derek bent down, wrapped his fingers around the first tier weight, and lifted it with one hand. One single hand. Then he started jogging across the obstacle course, using his free hand to wave at the stunned spectators. This is nice. Great weather for exercise. Jorath appeared at Velk's side, his voice barely a whisper. Sir, that weight requires specialized lifting equipment for most species. I can see that, thank you, Velk hissed back. Derek reached the end of the first tier, set down the weight gently, and bounced on his toes like he was warming up. What is next? Tier 2, 200 pounds. Derek lifted it, still joking. You know, back home, we have this thing called a gym. Monthly membership, terrible music playing constantly, but great equipment. I should recommend it to the Federation. Tier 3, 350 pounds. Derek hoisted it onto his shoulder, started doing lunges across the course. Lunges. Velk's secondary heart skipped a beat. This is impossible, Krixta whispered. His skeletal structure should be collapsing. Tier 4, 500 pounds. The weight that only Graviton shock troops could manage, and even they needed both hands and full concentration. Derek picked it up, frowned slightly. Okay, now we are getting somewhere. This actually has some heft to it. A crowd had gathered. Instructors, administrative staff, even Tanix, the academy administrator, stood watching with his mouth hanging open. Velk felt his superiority crumbling like a sandcastle in a tsunami. One more tier, Velk croaked. The final tier. The final weight was not meant to be lifted. It was a collapsed starship component, 875 pounds of solid engineering. It existed as a symbolic representation of absolute limits. A monument to impossibility. Derek approached it, rubbing his hands together. Now this looks fun. You cannot be serious, Velk said, his voice cracking slightly. I mean, the rules did not say I could not try, right? Derek grinned that terrifying human grin. And you did say to show my limit. Perhaps we should stop this, Tanix interjected, his administrative instincts screaming about potential diplomatic incidents. If the human injures himself, Earth might file a formal complaint. I am fine, Derek called out cheerfully. Just need to find the balance point. He gripped the component, took a breath. His muscles tensed, and for a moment, nothing happened. Velk felt a surge of vindication. Finally, the human had found something he could not conquer. Then Derek lifted it. Not quickly, not easily, but he lifted it. Inch by impossible inch, the massive weight rose from the ground. Derek's face reddened slightly, the first sign of actual effort he had displayed all morning. His breathing increased. And then he was walking. actually walking, carrying 875 pounds of starship component across the obstacle course like he was moving furniture. Rella, the medical officer, rushed forward with scanning equipment. His heart rate is elevated but stable, blood pressure rising but within acceptable parameters. How is he not dying? Derek reached the end of the course and set down the weight with exaggerated care. Then he straightened, rolled his shoulders, and smiled. That was great. Do you have anything heavier? I feel like I could do more. The silence that followed could have swallowed planets. Velk stood frozen, all 6 arms hanging limply at his sides. His worldview had not just cracked. It had shattered into approximately 17,000 pieces, each one mocking him personally. Perhaps, Derek continued, oblivious to the existential crisis he was causing, we could add your weight to that last one, or stack a few of the earlier tiers together. I would hate to leave without knowing my actual limit. Jorath made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. Crixta's antennae had gone completely rigid. Plorb had stopped moving entirely, their gelatinous form frozen in shock. And Velk, Instructor Velk, veteran of 200 cycles and breaker of 4,762 spirits, felt something he had not experienced in decades. Respect. An absolute bone-deep, soul-shaking terror. Class dismissed, he whispered. Nobody moved. I said class dismissed! The cadets scattered like startled prey animals. Derek jogged back toward the barracks, already chatting with Crixta about proper stretching techniques. Velk remained standing in the training grounds, staring at the weights his feeble human recruit had just conquered. Jorath, he said quietly. Yes, sir? Get me everything, every piece of data on human physiology, every report, every assessment, every single thing the Federation has on these creatures. Right away, sir. As Jorath hurried off, Velk looked up at the 3 sons of Bareth Prime and wondered exactly when the universe had decided to start playing practical jokes on him. Tomorrow, he decided, he would show this human what real challenges looked like. Tomorrow, he would introduce Derek to the Gauntlet of Titans. Tomorrow, everything would make sense again. Probably. Maybe. Velk was no longer certain about anything. Velk spent the entire night reviewing human data files. What he found did not improve his mood. Humans evolved on a death world. Gravity 1.3 times galactic standard. Atmosphere with oxygen levels that would be toxic to most species. Predators everywhere. Diseases. Natural disasters. The planet was actively trying to kill its inhabitants, and the humans had responded by becoming more resilient. This explains nothing, Velk muttered, throwing another data pad across his office. This explains everything, but I refuse to accept it. By morning, he had made his decision. Pride was a dangerous thing, but Velk had built his entire career on it. He was not about to let some cheerful biped from a nightmare planet destroy his reputation. The announcement came during breakfast. Attention all personnel! Today, Cadet Derek will attempt the Gauntlet of Titans, forks clattered. Crixta dropped her nutrition paste. Plorb actually solidified from pure shock. The what? Jorath appeared in the doorway, his face pale. Sir, that is reserved for species 3 times our size. No human has ever attempted it. No human has ever been allowed to attempt it. Well, today we make history, Velk replied grimly. Tannix materialized moments later, his administrative robes flapping as he rushed into the mess hall. Absolutely not. This is insane. If the human dies, Earth will declare war. Do you understand? War. He will not die, Velk said, though his conviction wavered slightly. Probably. Maybe. The medical team will be standing by. Derek looked up from his breakfast, a bizarre Earth food called pancakes that he had somehow convinced the kitchen staff to prepare. Did someone say Gauntlet? That sounds awesome. I am in. You do not even know what it involves, Krixta protested weakly. Does not matter. It has Gauntlet in the name. Gauntlets are always fun. Derek shoveled another bite of pancakes into his mouth. When do we start? 3 hours later, the arena was packed. Word had spread through the academy like wildfire. Cadets filled the stands. Instructors lined the observation deck. Even off-duty personnel had shown up, unwilling to miss what would either be history or tragedy. The Gauntlet of Titans consisted of 5 stations, each designed to test the absolute limits of physical capability. Station 1 was gravity resistance. Candidates entered a chamber where artificial gravity increased progressively. Most species tapped out around 4 times standard. The record was held by a graviton trooper at 7.2. Derek walked in, bouncing slightly. The gravity increased 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. His bouncing slowed but did not stop. 5 times, 6 times. He was now moving carefully, but still moving. 7 times. The observation equipment started flickering. Is the machine broken? Rella asked, checking her scanners frantically. No, Jorath whispered. That is his actual performance. At 8.5 times standard gravity. Derek finally stopped, not because he collapsed, but because he raised his hand. Hey, I think your equipment is maxing out. The floor is cracking. He was right. The reinforced flooring showed stress fractures. Station 2 tested atmospheric pressure tolerance. Station 3 involved temperature extremes, from near absolute zero to molten metal heat. Station 4 was an endurance run that would exhaust a pack animal. Derek passed them all. Not easily, not without effort, but he passed. His commentary continued throughout. Wow, this is cold. Oh, now it is hot. Great transitions, really keeps you guessing. The crowd did not know whether to cheer or pray. Then came Station 5. The final challenge involved moving a collapsed starship component. Not the training weight from yesterday, a real component. 1,500 pounds of twisted metal and broken dreams. It had sat in the arena for 30 cycles. Nobody had ever moved it more than 3 feet. Velk stood at the observation rail, his knuckles white where he gripped the metal. This will stop him, he muttered. This has to stop him. Derek approached the component, circling it thoughtfully. He crouched down, examining the weight distribution. Then he looked up at Velk, and that grin spread across his face again. Quick question, Derek called out. Are there rules about how I move it? Like, does it need to stay in one piece? What? No, just move it the regulation distance, Velk shouted back. Perfect. Derek gripped the component, planted his feet, and pulled. The metal groaned. The crowd gasped. Muscles stood out on Derek's arms like cables. His face went red, then purple. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then the component moved. 6 inches, a foot, 2 feet. Derek was not walking smoothly now. Each step was a battle against physics and common sense. Sweat poured down his face. His breathing came in harsh gasps. But he did not stop. Could not stop. Would not stop. 20 feet. The regulation distance. Derek set down the component, straightened slowly, and raised both arms in victory. That was a workout! Finally! The arena exploded. Cheers, shouts, the sound of every record in Academy history being shattered simultaneously. Krixta was clicking her mandibles so rapidly it sounded like applause. Plorb had given up on maintaining form entirely, spreading across 3 seats in shock. Velk stood motionless, watching the human who had just destroyed everything he thought he knew about limits. Jorath appeared beside him. "Sir?" "I was wrong," Velk said quietly. "Sir?" "About everything. I was wrong about everything." Velk turned to his fellow instructor. "I need to visit Earth. I need to understand these creatures, because if he is below average—" He trailed off, unable to finish the thought. In the arena, Derek was surrounded by admirers, explaining that back home, his grandmother could probably do better. Velk felt his reality shift one final time. This was not the end. This was just the beginning. The aftermath of the Gauntlet spread through the Galactic Federation faster than light-speed communications. Within hours, Derek had become a legend. Within days, his performance had been analyzed by military strategists across 40 systems. Within a week, the Academy received 17,000 applications from species wanting to train alongside humans. Velk spent most of that week in what Jorath politely called philosophical recalibration, and what everyone else recognized as an existential crisis. He said his grandmother could do better, Velk muttered for approximately the 900th time, sitting in his office surrounded by data pads. His grandmother, a human elder, could outperform my best cadets. To be fair, Jorath offered carefully, he might have been exaggerating. Was he exaggerating when he lifted 1,500 pounds? Was he exaggerating when he survived 8.5 times standard gravity? Velk's voice climbed steadily. Why would he exaggerate about his grandmother? A knock interrupted his spiral. Derek poked his head through the doorway, still wearing that infuriatingly casual smile. "Hey, instructor, got a minute?" Velk gestured weakly at a chair. "Please, enter, sit, destroy more of my worldview. I have almost gotten used to it." Derek sat, looking genuinely confused. "Did I do something wrong? Krixta said you have been kind of off lately." "Off? I have been off." Velk laughed, a slightly unhinged sound. "Derek, you have single-handedly invalidated 200 cycles of training doctrine. You have broken every physical record in Academy history. You have made me question fundamental principles of biology, physics, and my own competence. But sure, I am just off." "Oh." Derek scratched his head. "Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Sorry about that. I was just trying to do my best." "Your best." Velk leaned forward, all 6 arms folded on his desk. "Derek, I need you to be completely honest with me. How do you rank among humans? Strength-wise?" Derek winced. "Honestly, I am probably in the 30th percentile, maybe 35th on a good day." The office went silent except for the faint humming of environmental systems. 30th, Velk repeated slowly. "Yeah. I failed my planetary military fitness assessment twice before barely qualifying. Back home, I am the guy who needs help moving heavy furniture. My little sister can bench press more than me, and she is 15. Derek shrugged apologetically. "I actually considered not applying to the exchange program because I was worried I would embarrass Earth by being too weak." Jorath made a sound like a deflating balloon. Velk put his head down on his desk. "Get out." "Sir?" "Please leave my office before I have a complete psychological breakdown." Derek left, looking worried. Through the doorway, Velk could hear him asking Jorath if the instructor needed medical attention. What followed over the next few days was not something Velk would ever admit to in official records, but slowly, grudgingly, something shifted in the old instructor. He started watching Derek differently. not as a threat to his ego, but as a learning opportunity. He noticed how Derek trained the other cadets, not by showing off, but by encouraging them, teaching them the human concept of pushing past limits, which apparently was not about raw strength, but about mental fortitude. "You have got more in you," Derek told Krixta one afternoon, spotting her during a lifting exercise. "I can see it. Your exoskeleton is rated for way more stress than you are using. The limit is in your head, not your body." Krixta tried again. Failed. Tried again. Failed. On the third attempt, something clicked. She lifted the weight she had been struggling with for weeks. "I did it!" Her mandibles clicked in excitement. "Derek, I actually did it!" "Told you," Derek grinned. "The body can do amazing things when the brain stops being a coward." Velk watched from the observation deck, watched Plorb hold their form longer after Derek taught them breathing techniques, watched other cadets achieve personal records they had thought impossible. The human was not just strong, he was making everyone around him stronger. "Jorath," Velk said quietly. "Yes, sir?" "I want to formally request a visit to Earth. I need to understand these beings better. For the sake of the Academy. For the sake of the Federation." He paused. "For the sake of my own sanity." Jorath nodded. "I will submit the paperwork. Though I should warn you, the cultural shock might be significant. More significant than watching a below-average human destroy every record we have? Point taken." 3 weeks later, the request was approved. But before Velk could depart, another complication arrived. The transport landed on a clear morning, all 3 suns shining brightly. Velk stood on the landing pad with Tannix, watching as the ramp descended. 50 humans emerged. 50, the new exchange group. Derek jogged over to greet them, hugging several and exchanging those bizarre hand-slapping gestures humans called high fives. "Everyone," Derek called out. "This is Instructor Velk. He runs the best military academy in the Federation. You are going to love it here." Velk stepped forward, trying to project confidence he absolutely did not feel. "Welcome to Bareth Prime. I trust your journey was pleasant." An older human woman stepped forward. Her hair was white, her face lined with age, but she moved with fluid grace. "Lovely, thank you. I am Emma. Looking forward to the training. My grandson has told me wonderful things about your program." Velk blinked. "Your grandson? That would be me." Derek waved enthusiastically. Grandma Emma decided to join the exchange. She always wanted to see other planets. "I see." Velk's primary stomach twisted. "And you are?" "How old, if I may ask?" 73 Earth years, Emma replied cheerfully. I know, bit old for military training. But Derek convinced me it would be fun. Plus, my doctor said I needed more exercise." 73 years. An elder by any species standards. Velk forced a smile. "Well, we will certainly tailor the training to accommodate, mature participants." "Oh, do not worry about me, dear." Emma patted his lower right arm with surprising strength. "I will keep up just fine." The next morning, Velk prepared a gentle introductory course for the new arrivals. Basic equipment familiarization. Light calisthenics. Nothing too strenuous. Emma approached the standard training weights, the same ones Krixta had struggled with weeks ago. "These look manageable. Mind if I give them a try?" "Please, be careful. Those are quite heavy and—" Emma lifted the weight with one hand, examined it thoughtfully, then began doing overhead presses. Smooth, controlled, perfect form. "Nice balance on these. Good craftsmanship." Behind Velk, Krixta whispered, That is the weight that took me 6 weeks to lift properly. Emma completed 20 repetitions, set down the weight, and smiled. Got anything heavier? I am just warming up. Velk turned to Tanix, who had come to observe the new arrivals. I want to change my Earth visit request. Oh? Why? I want to cancel it entirely. I'm afraid of what I might find there. Velk watched as another elderly human, this one named Frank, casually jogged past carrying equipment that should require mechanical assistance. These are the beginners, the ones Earth sent because they wanted to start training. What are their actual soldiers like? Tanix had no answer. Over the following weeks, the new human cadets integrated into Academy life. They were friendly, enthusiastic, and horrifyingly capable. They treated impossible challenges like fun puzzles. They encouraged other species, sharing techniques and strategies. They fundamentally changed the culture of the entire Academy. And Velk, slowly, painfully, learned to adapt. He stopped trying to break spirits and started trying to build them. He learned human motivational techniques. He discovered that respect earned through support was more valuable than respect earned through fear. One evening, he found Derek on the observation deck, watching the 3 suns set. I owe you an apology, Velk said, approaching carefully. Derek looked surprised. For what? For underestimating you, for assuming weakness where I should have seen strength, for letting my pride blind me to the truth. Hey, no worries. Derek smiled. You were working with the information you had. Now you know better. That is all anyone can ask. Velk nodded slowly. Your species terrifies me, Derek. But I am grateful you are here. You have made me a better instructor. A better person. That is good to hear, because Grandma Emma was asking about advanced combat courses. Derek grinned. Apparently, she thinks the current curriculum is too easy. Velk looked out at the setting suns, wondering when his life had become a cosmic joke. But for the first time in weeks, he found himself smiling. Really smiling. Tell her to report tomorrow morning. I will design something appropriately challenging. You sure about that? Absolutely not. But I have learned that uncertainty is part of growth. Velk extended his primary hand. Thank you, Derek, for everything. They shook hands, human and Barothi, bridging the gap between species with mutual respect. Somewhere in the distance, Emma was challenging Jorath to an arm wrestling match. Velk decided he did not need to know the outcome. Some mysteries, he had learned, were better left unsolved.